Good morning, everyone. Scott Zambelli here with Odd Musings, and today we've got Brett is out of town. Him and Kevin Miner are down in Las Vegas having a good time. We were originally going to have Las Vegas Comic-Con happening, and that got moved to September, so they were able to keep their trip. So I hope they're winning lots of money and be able to retire when they get back. That'll be a lot of fun. So we got a special guest to the show. The restoration referee will be joining us. We're going to talk about some great advice for homeowners on how to protect your belongings and your homes and what to do should tragedy strike your household. So, but we'll get to that in a minute. But first, let's talk about our sponsors. We got Lawrence, your family chiropractic center. They're located in Dexter and Belleville, Michigan. They're wonderful services that they provide. Brett has been a long-time client of theirs, and we highly recommend them. My daughter actually also used them for a little bit as well. So give their offices a call. Their Belleville office, 734-697-4244, or Dexter, Michigan, 734-426-3994. They take great care of you, and they have a lot of great alternative services as well. But they treat more than just the symptoms. They treat the problems, and that's what you really want to get rid of your issues. Next is Team Titans of Real Estate. Why? Because you matter. That's right. At Team Titans of Real Estate, we utilize the latest in tools and technology to maximize your home buying experience, but never forget that at the end of the day, it's still a people business. And so we get to know you as our clients to really customize our approach to fit your real estate goals. So give us a call, 586-232-5144, and Jill Webler and I will be available to talk to you. So real quick before we go, you might notice this Band-Aid on here. I had a spot developing over the last year and went and had it checked. Never hurts to have things checked out by the skin doctor, and so they cut it out. So I have this nice little Band-Aid here. I think it was Nelly the rapper where he always had a Band-Aid. So I feel stylish today with rocking the Band-Aid on the cheek here. So with that said, let's bring in our guest, Jen, with the restoration referee. Hi, Jen.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited, Scott.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Typically, we're talking about all the nerdy, geeky stuff, but this helps tie into my regular job, which is real estate. We deal with houses all the time, and unfortunately, tragedies can happen, and fire, floods, different things can happen to houses, and your company is one of those companies that can take care of things like that. How about you tell us a little bit about your company?
We can, absolutely. So we're a full service restoration company. The bulk of our work is insurance restoration. So when you're having that flood, that fire in your home, if you need mold remediated, and we also do reconstruction as well. My husband, Mark, is a licensed builder with the state of Michigan. We're very proud of that. So we can put everything back together after the flood as well. We started our company almost 6 years ago now, which is exciting. Out of our unfinished basement in Westland, we had one light and one desk and a chair, and no walls or anything. We just hammered down, got to work. Built up our team that surrounds us, that helps us do all the wonderful things that we like to do out in the community. And we moved into a brick and mortar almost 3 years ago now, and we actually just moved to a larger space this past March. We're extremely proud of what we do. We want to make sure that we're taking care of our homeowners. We joke, but it's not a joke, that no one ever looks us up on Google or looks us up on Facebook and goes, let's call the restoration referee and bring them out. We're coming in after they've had tragedy happen to their, most prized possession, their biggest asset for most of Americans. And we're coming in, they've got water all through their basement, or their ceilings concaved in because a tree fell in and put a big hole in. We're coming in during those really tragic, stressful moments, and trying to give them some of their peace back, whether it's getting that tree off their house, patching up the roof, drying out the structure, and then putting it back together so that they can have their life back, essentially. No one comes home from work and goes, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see if a tree fell at my house.
Right.
But it does.
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah.
just as an example, my real estate partner Jill Webler,
Mhm.
her house 2 years ago, I think it was, she had it where there was some kind of issue with the sump pump, and it sounds like a lot of the soil, the clay, is somehow clogged up those pipes underneath the house that run to the sump pump,
Mhm.
and so it built up all this hydrostatic pressure, and their basement, the water actually came up through the cement up into it, and they had a nicely finished basement, and it caused a lot of damage. So it's a very stressful time for people when things like that happen.
Absolutely. It's really stressful. And I'm sure Jill, she didn't plan on walking into that mess that day, but
Right.
it happens more often than we realize. That I always say everybody knows somebody that has had this type of damage. And because we're a smaller business, we just look to our neighbors, give us a call. We're happy to come on out. Um, my husband Mark, he went out and checked out a house at 9 p.m. last night because it's a return customer, someone we want to make sure we take care of as best we can. They're a member of our community. But we're right next door, literally. We're right in Wayne. So yeah.
Yeah, and you had mentioned you were able to help with some recent floods that happened. Quite a few families get through their
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah, we helped over 150 families during the floods that took place actually like this weekend last year,
Hmm.
all throughout the Metro Detroit area, but definitely concentrated in the Wayne and Dearborn and Grosse Pointe areas that were just the catastrophic flooding that happened. We were very proud to help so many people and kept our lines open on the phones when a lot of companies were shutting them off, and just tried to help as many people as we can. And even if it's, you know, we get the DIYers that call that are like, oh my gosh, can I do this myself? I'm happy to walk you through what I would do. We're going to come out and take a look at it. And if we can help you, great. If not, people are worried about insurance coverage and what they should do. Just give us a call. We're here.
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned before is you help to counsel people on how they can better protect their personal belongings from
Yeah,
potential issues like
exactly.
unexpected events.
Right, exactly. Yes. So when we started our business, we knew we wanted to give back to the community in a big way. We love where we live, and we are grateful for the people that surround us and support us. So wanted to find ways to give back. So as part of my mission with that, and Mark's mission with that, is we want to educate the community at large too on just some simple ways you can protect your belongings. We talk about these treasures in your home, that make up your life. And if there's a way you can save them from a potential flood or fire in any way, shape, or form, we're happy to, advise on that as best we can.
Yeah, and we live in Michigan, and
Yeah.
unless your house is really on a high elevation point, chances are there will be water in your basement at some point, whether it's a failed sump pump, the grading on your exterior isn't correct, and it'll flow into. And it's not just if you have a basement. This also applies to crawl spaces too. You can get floods in your crawl spaces that you got to make sure that stays dry. But there's always, like when we go on our home inspections with our clients, the inspectors will often say it's not a matter of if your basement's going to leak, but when.
When.
And so, there we'll see people like put their things up. Like if you have expensive belongings, make sure you lift them up off the ground, or things like that too. But in Michigan, we love finished basements, and those can add up quick. So what tips can you give regarding like flood insurance? What should people know about having that?
Um, so I think historically people thought that you couldn't get flood insurance in Michigan because we didn't live in a flood area. We're not Louisiana. We're not on the East Coast, right on the water. You absolutely can get flood insurance. And like you said, it's when is your basement going to flood? We
Right.
definitely recommend reaching out to your insurance person and seeing what would happen if tragedy struck. What would you be covered for? And
Right.
I talked about this a lot when I did my speaking event at the West End Library. Was a lot of people sign up for their insurance policy 20 plus years ago.
Right.
It comes for renewal every year. They maybe skim the document, maybe if not, they just chuck it in the pile and remember to write the check. But they never really take a deeper look at what their policy covers. So I implore everyone to reach out to whoever you bought your insurance from and say,
Right.
hey, my friend had this happen to their home. What if I had that happen? What would you cover? What am I covered for? Um,
Right.
a lot of time what we're seeing is when the water comes back up through the drain, they only have coverage of maybe up to $5,000. Some of the larger homes maybe
Right.
have $1,000. But when you're talking, a 1,200 square foot finished basement with carpet, pad, drywall, and
Right.
you're going to run out of money really fast. Not even just
Exactly.
replacing those, but drying out the structure properly. And you always want to make sure you dry out the structure properly, because otherwise you're going to run into those issues with mold,
Yeah.
and mildew and other things building up if you don't do it correctly.
Yeah.
Make
One of the telltale signs we always see is a finished basement, the carpet's torn up, and the bottom 2 feet of drywall cut all the way around.
Yep,
It's like, oh, we know what happened here.
this basement flooded. But at least they did. Whoever dried it out did those flood cuts. They took
Yep.
out that carpet and pad. You
Yeah.
cannot dry carpet pad. I don't care what anyone says. It will never be
Right.
perfectly dry. And you know what happened in that house. And as buyer beware that any basement could really flood. But knowing that it already happened, I like to say your odds are in your favor, but
Exactly.
how many times can it happen to one house? And I say
Right.
that lightly because we had a homeowner last year during the floods. Within a 2.5 week span, her house flooded 3 times.
Oh,
And that
wow.
ended up being a municipality issue that was taken care of later on,
Yeah.
but it can happen. So
Oh,
just be
definitely.
aware. Definitely.
Yeah, and I've also, I've been thankful. Haven't had to utilize it, but from other clients where they've experienced different flood issues, I know the
Mhm.
fine print of not all flood insurance is created equal. The fine print, depending on your coverage, could be only if it's declared a disaster by the EPA, the FEMA. There's different things that will trigger whether or not the coverage kicks in. So like Jen said, definitely talk to your insurance person. Maybe give some examples to say, would it be covered under this scenario?
Exactly.
Um, so,
You'll
so
never know.
with you never know. So you also handle other types of issues. One thing we come across actually more often than not, especially in modern day homes, is mold remediation is needed. What a lot of people don't realize is houses are built to breathe. They're built a certain way, especially older houses. But then people will come in and they'll add insulation to those attics, and they'll cut off the airflow that happens through the soffits through all this extra insulation. So they're trying to make the home more energy efficient, but they've taken away the house's ability to breathe. And when
Mhm.
you do that, especially when you have bathroom vents that go into the attic and don't vent out, that moisture is collecting up there, and that's a prime recipe for mold.
Absolutely.
So in Michigan, I got to imagine that's a big call for you, is mold remediation.
It is. It's definitely a big call. We just wrapped up one yesterday. We did one last week as well, both in bathrooms, like you mentioned. So making sure, especially if you're buying a new home, that you check, do they have vents in their bathrooms? A lot of older homes didn't have them. They had a window. You just popped open the window.
Right.
Well, we know from history that that's not the most efficient way to get all that moisture out of your bathroom.
Right.
Making sure those vent fans are in there, but also making sure that you use a licensed installer. I cannot tell you how many times we've been called out and they say, I had a vent fan, but I have all this mold in my attic. Well, we go up there and it wasn't vented properly and it wasn't actually going outside. It was just going in the attic. So
Right.
making sure that you're doing your homework when you get those things installed in your home, and you're not just hiring, I joke, the man in the van, but someone who's licensed and reputable
Yeah.
to make sure those things, because it's really preventative maintenance. If your home doesn't have
Right.
one of those vent fans, you're asking for trouble as far as, remembering to open that window and
Exactly.
take care of that. So
Yeah, it can definitely be a problem, and mold can happen, in the attic. It can also, sometimes I've seen it where the mold in the attic is actually, one particular house, it turned out they had a severe water issue in the crawl space, and that moisture was evaporating up through the walls up into the attic. So they discovered that there was this big problem in the crawl space actually. So the mold in the attic can also be signs of moisture elsewhere in the house, and that's just the high point, and that's where everything goes.
Exactly.
So, so what are some things you suggest to help fix it? Do you add vents to the roof and different things like that?
Yes, so definitely making sure every bathroom in your home has those vent fans and that they're vented properly. That would be my number one, especially in our area. We do have a lot of older homes. My home is almost 100 years old, and we installed a vent fan when we bought the house. So it went, gosh, almost 90 years with no vent fan. It's a
Right.
miracle that there wasn't, black spots everywhere. But making sure that you've got proper ventilation, getting that home inspection is essential. Knowing a great home inspector who's going to be reputable, who's going to be honest with you, and not only tell you all the bad things or things that need to be
Right.
fixed, but also providing you a solution. Because just telling a homeowner, oh, there's mold in the bathroom, I found mold in the bathroom. Well, that's great, but it's not that expensive to get a vent fan installed. Like wrapping them around that, reach out to a licensed person, get a quote, see if it's worth it, to get that vent fan installed and then the mold remediated. See if you can meet somewhere in the middle on that with the deal. So, I think those home inspections are essential, and finding a reputable inspector as well.
Yeah, right now with the way the real estate market is, it's been so hot. A lot of people are waiving their home inspections. We always recommend a home inspection though, because often, even the most well-intentioned seller often doesn't go in their attic. They don't explore their crawl space or other, things in the house. They just know everything works. So
Exactly.
so often as a home buyer, if you get that home inspection done, you're probably going to know more about the house than the actual seller at that point. Because though when you get a good inspector, they go up into the attic, they go down into the basement or crawl space. They look at the flashing and all around to make sure everything's looking good. And a good home inspector, they will just tell you what they find. They will tell you solutions, but they're not going to fear monger. It's just that's up to you, the buyer, to decide if this is something you like or don't like. Everybody has different thresholds of what they're willing to work with. So,
Right.
we have a body of home inspectors we work with in our area. I'm sure you have some great ones in your area. And, generally speaking, home inspectors do a wonderful job, but they can only tell you what they see too. They can't tell you hidden items. So it's a visual inspection, and they tell you what they find, but they're still going in places you probably wouldn't. So
Absolutely.
yeah, you definitely want to do that.
Hmm.
Now you also mentioned you do fire damage. I got to imagine that presents its own sets of challenges.
It does. And I will say that the fire damaged homes that we do are by far the most tragic
Yeah.
types of jobs we take on. And it definitely requires a level of sensitivity and empathy on the part of our team, not only from the office, but from initial inspection to all the work being done to the finish. Um, you can't prevent everything. Sometimes things just happen.
Yeah.
You can have the best home inspection, everything was wonderful, and all of a sudden you have an electrical fire. It happens.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. And they tend to be the longest jobs that we do because there's a lot of moving components to it, not only from the initial fire and putting out the fire, but having the fire department assess, is the structure safe for us to walk back through? What kind of biohazards do we have that we have to contain so that we can actually start to demo parts of the property, if we're even able to save the property as a whole? And then you add in insurance. So I would say with anyone who has this tragedy, make sure whoever you're working with from a restoration standpoint is absolutely licensed and IICRC certified, but that they also come with a team in the office that is going to help you hold your hand. Really, it's a long process. Every
Yeah.
fire that we've taken on has been almost a year-long project,
Yeah.
start to finish, and it's really tough, and it really, I think, requires a strong relationship with whatever company you're working with. So that's one thing we
Right.
try to provide for our customers.
Yeah, the hard part there is like, with water damage, water just goes to the lowest point, and whatever's touching that water is what gets damaged. But the rest of everything else is fine. But with fire, you got smoke going throughout the house, and that's causing its own issues. Then you got the fire causing damage. But then you have the water. People don't realize how much water is used to put out a fire.
Yes.
And now that water is permeating throughout and causing its own damage as well. So you really get like every type of damage possible in a fire.
You do. And we found with that, more often than not, we end up doing our initial inspection and writing that up for the insurance. But then as things progress and we get the structure, I hate to say debrided, but like, get the fire damage pieces out, we find even more damage, like you said, from the water, that we didn't see on the surface. And that's another reason that those processes end up taking much, much longer. And it's a tough thing to swallow. But again, reaching out to your insurance agent and making sure you have enough coverage for your contents as well. And making sure that, if you had this whole house fire and you had, 4 people living there and, a lifetime worth of contents, well, what is their value? Because, that can be kind of a shell shock for some people as well.
Oh yeah. And then on top of it, you just have the emotional impact of, it's hard enough losing a house, but like you had mentioned, their personal belongings, family photos, and all these different things are gone. And so you're having to deal with this whole emotional component on top of the shock of losing the house itself. So it's a delicate process for sure.
Yes, very, very delicate. And a lot of the times, there's kids in these houses or families, that are affected by this. So it's just tragic overall.
We're having a slight connection issue.
Yeah,
I think it's on my end.
No, you're good. I'm like, I'm so good. I hear them zipping and zapping out there. I'm good. But one of the most, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, tell people about your website. So you're on Facebook here, The Restoration Referee. We posted the link to it so people can find you there. And, tell us a little bit about, I noticed your dog is in a lot of the pictures. Tell us a little bit about your dog.
She is. My shirt says, ask me about our dog. She's over here. You can't see her. She's sleeping on the couch right now.
Okay.
So she is a Shepherd Lab that we rescued back in, 2015. And, we typically were working from home all through COVID and everything. And then the floods last summer, we went from being home 90% of the time to being in the office 90% of the time. And she ended up having like little puppy behaviors, and she's not a puppy anymore. So we started bringing her to the office, and everyone fell in love with her because it's easy to do. And she comes to work every single day now. So, and it's nice, especially with some of the more difficult and challenging claims that we have, that to kind of have, we joke, but our office support dog, it's not uncommon for us to have people call, extremely distressed emotionally, crying on the phone. And it takes a lot out of you as our team here in the office, and even in the field, will say it's so calming and kind of brings you back down to earth when you come back to the office and here's the wagging tail and, this happy face, excited to greet you when you come in the door. So it's really just been a treat.
Pets have that power to just bring a level of comfort and relaxation to the situation.
Absolutely.
Especially and she likes onion rings, evidently, which is a really nice thing. Who doesn't like onion rings?
Yeah, she loves all food. Let's be honest. She's a fan of lunchtime in the office, as Sue will tell you. And she's always here. It's a nice thing to do. So yeah.
Very nice. So what areas do you specifically cover for Restoration Referee?
So I I wear many hats. I help run our office here. I do all of our accounting and HR. I am also out in the community a ton. I serve
Yeah.
on the Public Library of Westland Board of Trustees, along with
Yeah. Yep.
Westland Chamber of Commerce Board. Um, and I like to just get out in the community and share that we're here. You know, there's a lot of restoration companies out there. And there's a lot of places that pop up only when there's a storm. All of a sudden, they're a new business. And so we just want to make sure that our community knows we're here for them when that tragedy does strike. You know, we're around. Maybe you've seen us out in the community at an event or something, and kind of puts a face to the name on the end of the line. So.
Yeah. Oh, very good. What cities do you cover?
So we cover a rather large territory. We cover about an hour around our entire office, which is in Wayne. So we go as far as Lansing. We serve all of Metro Detroit.
Nice.
We go all the way over to the east side, St. Clair Shores, Macomb. We go down into Monroe and Flat Rock as well. And we're really excited. We're going to be opening a Northern Michigan office in the next year. So
Oh, nice.
we saw there was a need in the UP, and we love the UP, so it just made sense.
Oh, very
So
good.
that'll be coming soon.
So if anybody is listening and you're basically in Michigan, give them a call, 844-413-6444. If they're not within the area though, what advice do you have for how to find a good, you had mentioned there's oftentimes, fly by night ones that pop up during store and then disappear. And you really want a company that's been around. So how would you advise someone to look for a restoration company?
So the first step I would go is to go onto the IICRC website. It's iicrc.org, and look for a certified firm. You can, it's just like a Google search. You punch in your address and it'll show you certified firms in your area. And what the IICRC is they are kind of our governing educational body, if you will. So all of our certifications are through them. They are recognized by the industry on an extremely high level for providing quality service and doing things the right way. And I would start there. They are by far, in my opinion, the most reputable place to start. Google's great, but it's not going to tell you about those certified firms. And like everything, there's always someone trying out to say they're a certified firm and they're not really. And you can always check on the IRCRC website. As long as they're current on everything, they'll be there. So it's a nice reputable spot that you can go, and anywhere in the country you should be able to punch in your address and they'll find someone for you. Might not be super close, but they'll get someone in your territory basically.
Yeah, very good. Any other things you want to make sure people know before we head out?
Keep supporting local. Everything that's going on in the world is crazy and scary and stressful, and the more we can support local things like your show here and these reputable businesses that are local, they're gonna withstand the test of time when they have the support that they need. So and it doesn't necessarily mean spending money at any of these places. Give us a share on Facebook, give us a like, jump on there and tell me how much you love dogs, and remember me when your house floods, or if your sister's house floods or something. Just sharing the information and really supporting anything local and community based as best you can. I think it's going to overall help all of us weather whatever comes our way as far as the world and the economy goes.
That's right. So I'm reposting the link again, so it'll pop up in the thread. So once again, here's the link to their Facebook page. Give them a follow. You never know when a company like this would be needed in your life, and hopefully you don't ever need them. But it is Michigan. Floods happen, fires happen.
Mm-hmm. Everybody knows somebody.
It's true. Everyone does. Yeah. So. What are some, before I let you go though, we did talk about fire damage. What are some common sources of fires that you come across that maybe could have been prevented?
A lot of them start in the kitchen, and I'm sure the fire department would tell you the same thing. Stand by your pan, don't walk away when you're cooking. And just being mindful of that. We see a lot of kitchen fires, and just something as basic as watching what you're cooking, which seems so obvious. Um, Apparently, it wasn't whoever had a fire in the kitchen.
Yeah. You get a
Um,
lot of grease fires in the kitchen.
yes, yeah, we do, and they can be a mess to clean up.
Yeah.
Just because not only are you dealing with the grease and the chemicals and whatever they sprayed on the fire, but you're dealing with whatever they were cooking too, and
Right.
it can cause a lot of damage very fast.
Well, a lot of times people don't even realize how to put out a grease fire, which can
Yes,
be a problem. They'll try to put water on it because that's our natural instinct,
right.
but that doesn't work.
Exactly, exactly.
So
Yeah.
another thing I'll throw out there once again, Jill's going to be an example again. She almost had a fire. Thankfully, she caught it in time. The dryer vents were clogged, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
caught on. It started smoking or something. She was able to catch it in time though, and luckily she was home while the dryer was running, and she was able to stop it. But beforehand, but it turned out it was completely clogged,
Yeah.
and so definitely check out your dryer vents. Make sure they're cleaned out.
Yeah.
That's an important
And
one
that
too.
comes back to preventative home maintenance too, getting your
Mm.
ducts clean, getting your dryer vents clean when you get your ducts cleaned. Um, Taking care of your home the same way you would, going to the dentist twice a year, check up
Yeah.
on stuff. It's great that it can work for 20 years, but did it work for 20 years because you took
Yeah.
care of it? you
Well,
know?
and that's also I always tell people the importance of, like, we always use like daylight saving time as like the trigger point to, like, okay, here's your summer list, here's your winter list,
Mhm.
because you can't rely on your memory. You really can't. Like when we go to sell a house and we ask the age of, like, well, how old's your furnace? Oh, it's like 3 years old. And we look at it, it's like they got
15
it.
years.
Yeah, it's like 10, 15 years old. And we're like, really? I felt like we just got that. Like, so don't trust your memory, because time is, especially nowadays, we're already 3 weeks into June. I don't know how this happened. So, so time flies. So it's really good to get some type of maintenance list, and maybe divide it up, half, in the spring, half in the fall, and use daylight savings time as your reminder to go to that list and do it. Because if you take care of that list annually, it's
Mhm.
easy to do. It's easy to fix. There's nothing major, and you'll prevent a lot of potential problems down the road.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, I appreciate having you on our show here to talk about restoration, and definitely give them a look. If you want to go on their website, waterdamagemichigan.com is their website, or just follow them here on Facebook. That'll be the easiest way. They even have a call now button right on their page.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being part of the show, and good luck to you. And we look forward to catching up down the road.
Definitely. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
All right. Well, we want to thank Restoration Referee for being part of the show here. I'm going to just jump in a little bit about Kenobi. When Brett comes back next week, we will do a full review of the finale. So first, I'll start with a spoiler-free review of this week's Kenobi. Spoiler-free. And so please don't do any spoilers in the comments. You're welcome, Sue, and thank you, Jen. Really enjoyable conversation, and maybe we can catch up again this fall as we enter into the winter months here, just to once again remind people to go through those lists. It's a very valuable information for homeowners. So regarding Kenobi today, like I said, I'm gonna leave it spoiler free, but wow, what a great finale to this season. I'm very glad there's a season 2 that's coming. Now, originally they were reporting, so this is the spoiler-free information. They were reporting that this episode was going to be an hour and a half long, but they also reported scenes were taken out once the season 2 was greenlit. So I wonder if originally it was going to be an hour and a half, but with the scenes that were taken out, it's going to be a regular length episode. It's about 50 minutes or so. So that was my only disappointment, because I went in thinking I was getting an hour and a half long episode today, and around the 40-minute mark, I'm like, this feels like they're wrapping up the story. And I look, and sure enough, it was it was a regular length episode. So that's my only complaint. But otherwise, spectacular finale. The other thing I want to say is usually the final episodes of their series of each season will have a mid-credit or post-credit scene. This one did not have one. So there is no post-credit or mid-credit scene. So I had a theory. I'll share what my theory was next week, but all I'll say is my theory was wrong because there is no post-credit scene. So once this episode ends, you can turn it off without feeling any guilt or like you're missing out on something. But let's talk a little bit about last week's episode, episode 5. Wow, that was also great. So I'm going to give some props to the third sister a little bit. As I've said before, not my favorite character. I feel like, and to be fair to the actress, Moses Ingram, I feel like all the Inquisitors are kind of bland. They have not done a good job at making them shine. I think they did a far better job in the Rebel series showing us the Inquisitors and what they could do. With that said, Moses Ingram in particular, they really put her on a pedestal here as a character. They kind of made her the lead instead of the Grand Inquisitor. And I've been a little critical of her. I don't feel like she's a good bad guy. I really don't. But in this episode, her backstory was revealed more, and we get into what her motives are. And when there's a scene, and spoiler alert, we're talking spoilers for last week's episode. There's a scene where Obi-Wan and her, she's doing a siege on this rebel base to try to get Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan realizes what's happening and has a conversation with her. And it comes out that she was the Padawan that survived Anakin's slaughter of the younglings. She was a youngling, not a Padawan technically. She survived that attack, and really her whole motive, she's being driven by hate and anger and rage, the dark side of the Force. But her whole motive for rising up in the ranks in the Inquisitors is to get closer to Vader so she can have revenge on him for what he did. And the scene at that door where she gets a little emotional and her whole evil, there's cracks through her whole evil visage that she's putting up. That was a good scene. That was a good scene. And I think Brett and I, we talked way at the beginning. Our speculation was that Reva, the third sister, was actually going to be the redemptive character. There would be a redemptive story arc for her. And by the end of the season, she'd be a good guy. I won't reveal whether or not that's true or not, because you have to watch the final episode, which came out today. But that was our theory all along. And in that moment at the door where she's talking to Obi-Wan and she's not trying to act evil, I thought she did a very good job there. So some actors just don't have the qualities to be a bad guy. Sometimes certain actors are better at being the good guy. Certain actors are better at being the bad guy. Sometimes it can be very difficult to play somebody who's good at being both. So after I saw that part of her, I'm like, okay, I think I'll like her if our prediction comes true as she becomes a good guy. I think I'll like her portraying a good guy. So, because she just doesn't give that evil vibe to me. It's feeling too forced, too contrived when she's trying to act evil. So, but I did like that scene. So I am looking forward to whether or not, if she becomes a good guy, I'm looking forward to seeing how she develops as a Jedi instead of as a Sith person. So that's where I'll leave that character. But in regards to her, so Obi-Wan realizes what's going on, and he has this great flashback scene to a time where he's training with Anakin. And I don't know why I didn't think of it. They've used de-aging so much in other things. It never occurred to me to use Hayden Christensen for flashback scenes of Anakin while he was a Jedi. So when that happened, I was thrilled. And it was a cool scene of Obi-Wan training with Anakin. Based upon the hair, it would have been around episode 2. that time frame. And so one of the potential criticisms people have is, are we breaking canon with this series? Because Obi-Wan Kenobi says, or Darth Vader says to Obi-Wan Kenobi in A New Hope, he says, when I left you, I was the learner, you were the master. So a lot of people are saying, well, if they're having this fight now, that violates that line. But Obi-Wan says something to Anakin that I think was critical, as Anakin was being very aggressive. He had to win at all costs in his spar against Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan was able to defeat him, even though Anakin looked like he was going to win. And Obi-Wan says to him, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact quote, but as long as your only goal is victory, you'll always be the Padawan. And I think that's what they're getting at with this is, I think with Vader's just soul, he's got blinders on and all he can see is Obi-Wan, his hatred of Obi-Wan, and he's ignoring everything else around him. I think that line is going to be used as the correcting point for the other line. Like if Obi-Wan confronts Vader, I think there's going to, and I've said this before, so I'll tell you what my theory was in prior weeks. I'm not going to talk about what happened. I'm going to talk about my theory beforehand. So my theory was we'd have a battle between Obi-Wan and Vader, and Vader's single-mindedness in defeating Obi-Wan will cause that line to be thought of. So, as long as all you care about is winning, you'll always be the Padawan. So that was my theory all along. We'll see if it comes true in today's episode. So with that said, Obi-Wan realizes Vader's weakness is his sole determination to destroy Kenobi, revenge. So he allows the third sister to capture him. And she says to him, I'm going to bring you to Vader. And he says, you're not bringing me to Vader. I'm bringing Vader to you. And she realizes Obi-Wan's helping her to fulfill her own plan. And he's telling her, it's funny. It's kind of in reverse. Vader kept saying to Luke in Empire Strikes Back, join me and together we'll defeat the Emperor. Well, here's Obi-Wan saying to the third sister, join me and together we'll defeat Vader. And that was kind of the parallel there. And he's trying to convince her to take advantage of this opportunity. So Vader arrives and Obi-Wan gets away. And there's this great scene so by getting away, though, the third sister allows him to get away. By him getting away, it causes Vader to be focused solely on Obi-Wan trying to escape. And the ship is taken off. And we see the power of Vader, where through the Force, he's just holding that ship in place, which we later see Rey do with a smaller ship in, Rise of Skywalker, I think it was in. We see Rey do the same thing. So Vader holds this ship, and it turns out it was a decoy ship. There's another ship that took off, and they were on that. But in his distraction of doing that, the third sister takes her opportunity to strike Vader from behind. However, just as she's about to strike, she gets frozen. She's freezed, and Vader turns around, and he reveals all along he knew who she was, that she was a Padawan, the youngling who survived, and that she would want revenge on him. And that opens up this amazing fight between Vader and the third sister. And I'm wondering, do they have a picture of it? Oh, here's the flashback scene here. They did a great job with these two. That was a lot of fun. There's Vader holding that ship by the hand, but here's Vader versus Reva here. What was so epic about this, and once again, Vader, you can criticize Disney's handling of and Lucasfilm's handling of certain Star Wars characters or projects since Disney took it over. But one thing that they have excelled at is their treatment of Vader. So the third sister starts fighting him. Vader doesn't even draw his lightsaber, doesn't even draw it because he is so beneath him. and he shows how skilled he is with the Force to fight even unarmed, and he basically letting her know, even with no lightsaber, I can defeat you with the lightsaber. So he ends up disarming her, breaks her lightsaber in two, and then or dismantles it. I don't know if it's made to be in two or not, but and then he through the Force gets both lightsabers, and now he's fighting with two hands. And keep in mind, back in Attack of the Clones, we saw Anakin very skillfully fight with two hands against Count Dooku. So, well, with two hands until he lost a hand. But so yeah, so that was a really great scene, and just once again, Disney / Lucasfilm really did Vader right. I cannot criticize one single thing with how they've treated Vader so far. I really hope the one thing this Kenobi series has done is really, really make me want a Vader series. There could be a lot of awesomeness that comes out of that. But they got to do it right. Unfortunately, season 1 of Boba Fett, while I really liked the season, I think it made Boba Fett a weaker character as a whole. Now, Tamora Morrison has said we got to return Boba Fett to being a badass. So there is going to be a season 2, and I have a feeling they will do that. They tried it, making him a more friendly Boba Fett. No one likes that, but the series was good enough that it was fun to watch. So we'll see where Boba Fett goes down the road. But Vader, I don't think you can improve how Vader's been handled. In fact, Vader, between the scenes in the Rogue One movie, the hallway scene, these scenes here, when you watch A New Hope, the tension is so much more dangerous in that opening scene when Vader is on the ship, because we now know these things that he does in these series and this other movie. So Vader, the treatment of Vader has made the prequels, the original trilogy, even better. And in some ways too, I think they're also enhancing the prequels through him, because the way they're handling him, I think I've always enjoyed Hayden Christensen as Anakin. I've never had an issue with him. I had some issues with some of the writing for him, but I always felt Hayden was perfect as Anakin. And I feel like how they're utilizing him here, they're fleshing the character in even more. And so when you go back to the prequels, I think it makes the Anakin character much better as well. So really enjoyed that. So that's the basic summary. Leia is still really great. Really liking how they're treating the Leia character. All of the characters, Uncle Owen and them, they're all really good also. So I'm excited. I can't wait till we can talk about the finale of Obi-Wan here when that comes up next week. When Brett's back, we'll do that. So very excited for that. Now, as far as the Star Wars rumor mill goes, let me pull this up. I want to pull up this article and talk a little bit about this. Let me share it. Here we go. So a bunch of websites are talking about Miley Bobby Brown, better known as Eleven from Stranger Things. She's also been in a number of other things as well. Reports are she's in talks with Lucasfilm to join the Star Wars universe. Now, one thing that's an interesting thing is, over the last couple years, people have been posting side-by-side shots of Miley Bobby Brown and Carrie Fisher back at the time of A New Hope, and just how similar they look. In fact, even this picture right here that we're looking at, that's Miley Bobby Brown's face photoshopped onto Leia, I believe. It's so hard to tell, but I'm 99% sure that's her face. That looks photoshopped to me. So, it shows how close the resemblance is. So if this is true, they may have themselves a perfect actress to handle uh, Princess Leia roles as they revisit these through the Disney Plus series and things. They can have her portray an older Leia, um, closer to the timeline of A New Hope. So that would be really awesome if that happens. So I hope it does happen. She's a great actress, and I think she has the gravitas to pull off the role. I mean, the biggest potential thing is how can, the voice, but it's another actress playing the role. It doesn't have to be an exact match as long as she embodies the essence of what the character is, and I think she can. So I think it'll work. So hopefully this is what's in the work. I can't. The only other thing I could see her doing is if they were going to somehow portray her as some form of offspring, but unless they do something to canon and change it, as far Leia's only offspring would be Kylo Ren, Ben Solo. We don't know of any others, but they could potentially, back in the original Legend series, they did have her have twins. Leia had 3 children in the old expanded universe series. She had Anakin, who was the youngest. She named it after Anakin Skywalker, and then Jason and Jaina Solo. They were twins. Now they kind of took that storyline and they evolved it, and they kind of split the twins apart. And Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, took over the role of the Jason character in the books, and then Rey became the Jaina in a way. So that's where they kind of diverged them, and then they created this connection to the Force between the two. I think they were really channeling off of the Legend series there. So unless they come up with something where it turns out Leia had a daughter, then maybe they'll do that, because they are talking about doing something in the timeline of the sequel trilogy. So you could theoretically do something like that, but it really would come out of nowhere that there was a daughter, since they completely bypassed that through the whole sequels. So we'll see, though. Upcoming series where maybe she could be used. I don't know how far they are in the filming, but there's the upcoming Ahsoka series, and the Andor series, I believe, is already done filming, so she wouldn't be part of that. And then we have the future Mandalorian and those things. But with the timeline of where these are happening, these stories, maybe that's where they'll use her. So we'll see. Time will tell. But anyways, that's enough of that. So as I said earlier, here's my cool Band-Aid here. Had that skin removed from the skin doctor. There was a little spot here. Just felt better safe than sorry. Have it cut out. I was saying to a coworker here today, if it's not paying me rent, it's not staying. so I'll be wearing a Band-Aid all this week. And then next week, I think I'll be able to have the Band-Aid off. They said I'll be able to take it off. I just have to protect it from the sun for right now while it's healing. Otherwise, it'll get discolored again from the sun. So didn't hurt at all. Took 2 minutes. They numb it, cut it, send you on the way. So keep track of yourself too. If you have spots on you that you're not sure what they are, go to the skin doctor. They'll take care of it for you. Better safe than sorry, I say. Anyways, thank you everyone for joining us. Next week, Brett will be back in town. We'll be talking our full opinions of all of the Kenobi series, especially this finale that was really good. We'll talk about other things as well. We got The Boys, we got Strange New Worlds, there's so much on right now that's really good. So we will catch you next week when we discuss all that. All right, everyone, take care and have a wonderful day.